Well, the Brits will vote in a week on whether to stay or leave the European Union. What are the financial implications if the country does vote to exit the Eurozone? Joining us right now is Encima global founder and president and former Deputy Assistant Treasury Secretary under President Reagan, David Malpass. David, good to see you.
Hi, Maria.
What do you think? Everybody who has come on the show has said the same thing. If they leave the Eurozone, there's going to be market disruption. We're going to see outflows out of the UK. Do you, number one, agree with that? And number two, why?
You know, I don't so much agree with that, but that is the status quo view. People are comfortable with what's happening today, and this really is a big vote. How often is it that people actually get to vote on something? Usually we're voting on candidates that are mostly the same. So next week they're going to actually vote on doing something. So that unsettles the markets. My view, though, is it's worse for Europe than it is for the UK.
I understand the uncertainty and the unsettledness of it, but connect the dots for us in terms of what happens. What are the real implications? Trade deals will have to be redone, right? Because the UK right now is under the EU trade, so that's one thing. What else?
So in financial services, they've set up some kind of a system where you can have your London hub and it does business throughout Europe. Those will have to change and be somehow diversified. So that's unsettling to the banks and might be very costly to banks that are trying to do business in Europe. One of the unknowns is how protectionist does the continent want to be. England is their biggest customer. The UK runs a trade deficit with England, with the continent, and so they'll have some negotiating power. They'll say, look, we don't want to be part of your club, but we want to do business with you, and by the way, we're your biggest customer. So that gives them time. They'll have 3 years in total to have a gradual departure from the EU. So I think going into the vote, both sides have to really exaggerate what would happen, and it's become pretty vicious, you know, personalized in terms of the campaign. But after the vote, both sides will try to make it work and be profitable. Or
James.
Yeah, I think the Brits should get out because we've been talking. Obviously, markets are short-term. We're saying disruption. Big banks are saying don't do this. J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon went over there and said, I'm going to cut staff here if you do this. But looking at long-term, it's getting out from under this huge bureaucracy in Brussels. The EU, Britain's one of 28 countries, so they can't really drive it. They get out from under this huge layer of government, and they're the 5th largest economy in the world. They can negotiate trade deals. People want to trade with them.
And by the way, one thing that I've been mentioning, it wasn't such a bad idea not to join the euro. That was actually a very smart idea to keep the British pound. So why are we questioning whether or not the UK is contemplating the right move here?
You know, the ties are close, so that's what gives ground to the landing rights are complicated, and they've created somewhat of a fortress EU where England is inside that fortress. So that's unsettling when you leave. But at the core, there's a bigger issue, which is nationalism versus socialism. The continent has become more and more socialist as England went in a different direction. And so that nationalism is a key issue in the vote. Do you want to be somewhat independent, or do you want to have a bigger government on top of you?
Of course, we've seen that same dynamic here in the United States, where the elite's very detached from what people are feeling. What will the average Brit, have they seen value from being a part of the EU, and how will it affect their lives? I mean, I'm with you. I feel like an exit would send a lot of the right signals to people that the elites are out of touch with what's happening in real people's lives.
That's right. I agree with you.
And that nationalist sentiment has been there for generations. I mean, the older Brits look at Germany, and you know they're not big fans.
Right. And they don't want Angela Merkel running their lives.
That's right. Unelected bureaucrats.
Pete's hit on it, though. Worldwide, how do we get median income to go up? The system to an extent is being run for people who issue bonds. Every day we see these giant bond issues, and those people are able to get the money, and there's not very much of it finding its way to the median income. Same in the UK. So it's a bit of a grab for weight. I want my income to be going up for the middle class.
Sounds like you think they're going to leave.
I think the trend is toward that, and recent
so,
elections in Europe have been in that direction.
Yeah, okay. So having said that, does the market sell off? over the near term?
You know, the market's been really thick-skinned on lots of problems, so I think there would be that moment, but then it won't. I don't think it will sell off. No, the pound and euro both go down a little bit against the dollar because there's a lot of uncertainty about it.
David, thank you so much.
Yep.
Great to see you. David Malpass there. Still to